Chapter 1, Academic Life Around the World. Page 5, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Advice. Attitudes. Challenges. Community. Cultural background. Features. Habits. Interests. Lifestyle. Major, area of study. Personalities. Privacy. Rules. Security. Strangers. Variety. Verbs. Attend. Get along. Get through. Relate. Stay out of. Survive. Adjectives. Common. Considerate. Private. Shared. Similar. Adverb. Away from home.
Page 5, Chapter 1, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
The Higher Learning of Community Living. Introduction and Definitions. Before college, most young people around the world live in a family home. Their first living experience away from home may be in a dormitory or residence hall at an institution of higher education. One definition of dorm is a building with rooms for residents, usually with common bathroom facilities and recreation areas. In many ways, college dormitories are like other kinds of shared housing, like co-ops, cooperatives, international houses, apartment rentals, or private homes. Both on campus and in the larger community, shared living accommodations vary in size, number of occupants, cost, facilities, amenities, and other features. Residents without their own bedrooms may have to share space in doubles or triples with one or two roommates. But even occupants with private single rooms have to relate to people of various lifestyles and habits in the same building or area. In fact, some institutions define dormitory as a shared living and learning community on a college or university campus. That's because the main advantage of any kind of communal living is the higher learning of getting along with others. The residents of campus housing. The occupants of residence halls or other kinds of shared living accommodations can differ greatly. On some campuses, first-year students have to live in dormitories, so most dorm residents are of similar ages. In special interest housing, building residents may have the same major, area of study, lifestyle, or cultural background. Even so, they will have a variety of interests, experiences, habits, personalities, attitudes, and preferences. Survival means getting through the experience without harm. So what is most important for survival in shared living situations? It's good relationships. For higher learning at colleges or universities, or in the larger community, not only students, but also other adults need to relate to one or more roommates, residents on the same floor, or occupants of the same building or area. Some challenges of communal living. What are some possible challenges of living with others? What if there's not enough space, privacy, quiet, cleanliness, healthy living, or security? What about bad relationships with roommates or housemates, different lifestyles, or unwanted company? Without solutions, such differences can grow to big problems for young people away from home and family for the first time. They may be happy about their new independence, but the challenges of transition to community living with strangers can be difficult. How to survive living with others. Shared living situations can be one of the best or worst parts of adult life. How can we get through this transitional time of life without harm? People with experience in living with others give this advice. 1. It's most important to get along with the other residents of the same room, floor, building, or area. Be considerate and pleasant. You may not become close friends, but don't be enemies. 2. Next in importance to surviving communal living situations is to stay out of trouble. Be direct and honest, not shy, about your own needs and values. Do you want to stay healthy? To stay out of harmful situations? To study and learn well? 3. And finally, participate in shared living. Create house rules and follow them. Attend meetings and other educational events. Stay informed and get to know good people. If you're true to your own values, you'll survive nearly any kind of new living experience. And it may even become one of the best memories of your life. Conclusion and summary. For some people, their first experience away from home and family is in a shared living situation at a college or university. Other adults may need or want to live communally later in life. People are different, of course, so it's very important to get along with roommates, housemates, and others in the same area or community. Following rules, staying out of trouble, and participating are good ways to meet the possible challenges of residential living.
Page 10, Chapter 1, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Academics. Comfort. Debt. Decision. Excuses. Expense. Harm. Luxury. Opportunities. Safety. Verbs. Care. Harm. Miss. Take chances. Waste. Adjectives. Crowded. Homesick. Insecure. Lonely. Miserable. Terrible. Unsafe. Valuable. Well-paying. Adverb. Academically.
Page 11, Chapter 1, Part 2, Activity 2, Recognizing the topics and the main ideas of paragraphs.
Reasons not to live in shared housing situations. Are you leaving home to attend college? Then don't live in a residence hall, international house, housing cooperative, frat or sorority house, rooming or boarding house, shared apartment rental, or furnished room in a private home. That's because living with others can make life miserable. Why is it difficult to get along with roommates, housemates, or other strangers in the same building? They will come from different places and different cultural backgrounds. They will probably have unpleasant personalities, unhealthy habits, and negative values. They make the house crowded, messy, and noisy. They may get you into trouble or harm you in other ways. Then you won't study. You'll fail academically. You will have a terrible educational and life experience if you live in shared housing. Reasons not to go away to school in another town, city, or country. The most important features of the higher education experience are safety, security, health, comfort, and luxury. So why isn't it a good idea to leave home, family, and friends for academic study on a college or university campus? One reason is that you'll have to live in an unfamiliar place with dangerous strangers. These people probably won't share your interests, attitudes, and values. They may not like or care about you. Won't you feel lonely, homesick, insecure, unsafe, or miserable with new kinds of people from different cultural or language backgrounds? And how can you stay healthy in noisy, messy, crowded houses or buildings with bad food and harmful substances? How can you exercise, relax, study, and sleep? Living and studying in towns, cities, states, provinces, or countries not your own can never be a comfortable, happy, or positive experience. Reasons not to continue academic study after high school. College is expensive, especially if you live away from home. Many students go into great debt to pay for academic education and living expenses. And years of higher learning aren't worth the cost. Not all students learn enough from their studies for a good life after college. Few get well-paying jobs or make a lot of money in their areas of study or private business. Some people are not good at or interested in academics, so they waste their time on campus. They're not working, so they lose money during that time. They might even learn bad or dangerous habits from campus culture. Valuable experience comes from the real world, not the classroom. There's no reason to go to college, and there are many negative reasons not to. Reasons not to use negative reasons in decision-making. Often, reasons why not are just bad excuses. People may be afraid to leave their homes and families, to meet strangers in unfamiliar places, or to take chances. Maybe they don't want to try new ways of thinking, living, or experiencing life. They might not like to feel alone, shy, or uncomfortable. But perhaps the specific reasons aren't important. Negative thinking can cause people to miss the best opportunities in life. Isn't life-changing experience worth more than security, comfort, or even money? Probably it's better to think out each important decision in academic life and living. Consider both the advantages and disadvantages of each choice. Learn valuable things about yourself and the world. Stay true to your values, become a better person, and have fun. Especially in new places with different kinds of people, your college years can be the best and most memorable time of your life.
Chapter 2, Experiencing Nature, page 23, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Asthma. Atmosphere. Biometeorologists. Blood pressure. diseases, disorder, effects, flu, influenza, headaches, heart attacks, humidity, moods, pneumonia, scientists, strokes, temperature, weather, verbs, effect, cause, increase, influence, adjectives, depressed, depressing, forceful, humid, irritable, moody, nervous, physical, powerful, sudden, warm.
Page 23, Chapter 2, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
The powerful influence of weather. Biometeorologists and their research. Weather has a powerful impact on the physical world. It also affects people's personalities. How do we know about the effects of weather on people? We know from biometeorologists. These scientists study weather. They study how atmospheric conditions affect human health and emotions. The word atmosphere means the air around the Earth. Atmospheric conditions at a time or place is a definition of the word weather. Some examples of these conditions are sun, wind, rain, snow, humidity, the amount of moisture in the air, and air pressure, the force of air. The weather conditions of the atmosphere greatly influence or affect people's health, thinking, and feelings. How wind can affect health. All over the world, researchers have studied how wind affects human health. Strong winds may result in a change in air pressure and temperature, which can be harmful to people. According to biometeorologists in Russia, powerful winds are known to increase the number of people who have strokes, blood vessel attacks in the brain. Also, Italian researchers have found that during times of strong winds, Italians have more heart attacks, sudden stopping of the heart. And Japanese weather scientists say forceful winds often cause an increase in the number of asthma attacks. Asthma is a lung disorder. It causes breathing problems. Although wind doesn't always lead to such serious health problems, people everywhere have experienced bad headaches because of powerful winds. Possible effects of other kinds of weather. Do other kinds of weather influence physical health? Sudden temperature changes in winter are often associated with a cold or the flu. The flu, or influenza, is a viral disease. However, colds and flu probably increase because people are in close contact, near one another, indoors, in cold weather. Colds and flu may even lead to pneumonia, another lung disease. Other illnesses also increase during long times of cold weather. In most places, diseases of the blood and heart attacks are more common in winter. But in some very hot and humid, wet regions, there are more heart attacks in summer. Many people have high blood pressure, a health condition. In 3 out of 4 people, blood pressure goes down, in warm weather. But some people have lower blood pressure in the cool or cold times of the year. Weather and mood. These forces of nature greatly affect people's moods, emotional conditions, and feelings, too. For many people, winter in the northern regions is very depressing. They eat and sleep a lot, but they usually feel tired. They are nervous and can't work well. They are irritable, not very nice to other people. Biometeorologists even have a name for this condition. The name is Seasonal Affective Disorder, SAD. Scientists think the cause of this mood disorder is the long periods of darkness. Even during the day, it is often cloudy or gray. What can people with SAD do about their moods? Naturally, they need more light. On bright days, they feel better. But people don't work very well on sunny, hot, and humid days. The best weather for good work and thinking is cool and clear. Conclusion and summary. Are the people around you becoming sick more often? Are they getting more colds or the flu or even pneumonia? Are they having more health problems like headaches or asthma attacks or heart disease? Or are you becoming moody? Are you getting more tired or depressed, low in mood, or sad? Remember, according to biometeorologists and other weather scientists, the cause may be the atmosphere.
Page 28, Chapter 2, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Blizzards. Carbon dioxide, CO2. Climate. Damage. Desert. Droughts. Floods. Gases. Global warming. The globe. Hurricanes. Meteorologists. Plants. Storms. Temperature. Tornadoes. Tropical rainforests. Verbs. Cut down. Follow. Vary. Adjectives. Average. Common. Extreme. Global. Major. Natural. Typical. Worse. Yearly. Adverbs. Generally. Slowly. Phrases. At least. From season to season. In contrast. More and more.
Page 29, Chapter 2, Part 2, Activity 3, Reading an Article.
Global climate changes. Climate in regions of the globe. The word weather means the atmospheric conditions at a specific place and time. The weather can vary from day to day. In contrast to weather, climate is the general or average atmospheric conditions of a region. In different areas of the globe, the climate generally stays the same from year to year. For example, the climate in the desert is usually very dry. It may be cold in winter and hot in summer, but there is very little rain or humidity. In contrast, in tropical rainforests, there is very high humidity. In most other areas of the world, the weather is cool or cold and wet or dry in the winter season. It is warm or hot and dry or humid in the summer months. According to some meteorologists, weather researchers, the Earth's climate is changing slowly. In most places on the Earth, the weather varies from season to season or even from day to day. In contrast, the typical climate is similar every year. Even so, there may be global climate changes from one long time period to another. What are these changes? Some scientists believe the weather is becoming more extreme. There are longer periods of very cold and very hot temperatures. There are more and more powerful hurricanes and tornadoes, storms with strong, fast winds, and blizzards, heavy snowstorms. Floods, large amounts of water on dry land, and long droughts, times without enough rain, are causing greater and greater physical damage to the human communities on Earth. These extreme forces of nature will get even worse in the future, say some people, and every change in climate in one part of the globe will bring more extreme changes in other areas. Global warming and El Niño are having major effects on the Earth's atmosphere, weather, and climate. At least, that's the opinion of many researchers and scientists. What is global warming? It is a slow increase in the average yearly temperature of the planet. The cause is an increase of gases in the atmosphere. What is El Niño? The Spanish phrase means the little boy or the Christ child. It names a weather condition most common in the month of December. This seasonal weather disorder is a change in the atmosphere of the tropical areas of the Pacific Ocean. It increases the amount of rain in the Americas and can bring strong winds and hurricanes. In contrast, El Niño may cause drought in the southern and western Pacific, Asia. Blizzards, snow, and long periods of low temperatures may follow in the northern regions of the globe. Not all meteorologists believe there is much natural global warming. According to these scientists, the El Niño effect is not getting stronger. So why is the temperature of the Earth going up? Why are tropical storms like hurricanes causing more and greater flood and wind damage? Probably, human beings are the main cause of the extreme effects of weather and climate changes. Cars and factories are putting more and more gases like carbon dioxide, CO2, into the Earth's atmosphere. Coal and oil add carbon dioxide to the air too. Trees and plants take in carbon dioxide, but humans are cutting down the rainforests and putting up buildings where green plants used to grow. The world has a lot of people now, and it will have a lot more people in the future.
Chapter 3, Living to Eat or Eating to Live, page 43, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Additives. Atmosphere. Breakfast. Carbohydrates, carbs. Complex carbohydrates. Convenience. Customs. Dairy. Diabetes. Diet. Discussion. Dishes. Elements. Fast food. Fats. Habits. Insects. Low-carb diet. Minerals. Preferences. Protein. Soy products. Vitamins. Verbs. Diet. Lose weight. Prefer. Prohibit. Adjectives: fried, frozen, healthy, natural, nutritious, packaged, permitted, religious, slim, universal, well-rounded, worse. Adverb: probably.
Page 43, Chapter 3, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
Global diet choices. Meanings of the word diet. Most words in the English language have more than one simple basic meaning. One example is the word diet. The most general definition of the noun is a person's or a group's usual food choices and habits. In a more specific definition, diet means an eating plan with only certain kinds or amounts of food. For instance, a diet is often a plan to lose weight. And as a verb, diet means to lose weight. People can go on a diet, meaning they are starting a program to lose weight. International fast food. All over the world, the global diet includes fast food, prepared items from inexpensive restaurants, snack bars, or food stands. Some examples of typical American fast food are hamburgers, hot dogs, sandwiches, and fried chicken. Some common international fast foods might be German sausage and schnitzel, Italian pizza and pasta, Mexican tacos and burritos, Middle Eastern shish kebab and falafel, Japanese sushi and tempura, and Chinese egg rolls and noodles. Why is this kind of food becoming even more universal or worldwide? First, fast food restaurants usually prepare and serve the items quickly. Second, many fast food restaurants are part of fast food chains, eating places with the same name and company owner. For instance, the biggest and most famous American fast food chain serves hamburgers in every continent on the planet except Antarctica. Its menu items may not be exactly alike in all cultures, but its 33,000 restaurants all have the same look and style. The atmosphere seems comfortable and familiar. Third, the items at fast food places usually cost less than meals in formal restaurants or special dishes made at home. And finally, people usually enjoy the taste of the food, even if it is not very nutritious, healthy. How people make individual food choices. How do most people make their diet decisions? Individual choices are often based on former habits, cost and convenience, beliefs about health and nutrition, and ideas about physical beauty. Some people learn to like certain foods in childhood, and they don't change later in life. Many people have busy lives, so they buy or prepare food and eat it as quickly as possible. Some meal planners think only fresh and natural food is nutritious, so they buy vegetables, fruits, and foods without additives, chemical substances, and prepare it in healthy ways. People with health problems, like high blood pressure or diabetes, a blood sugar disorder, may be on special non-salt or non-sugar diets. The nutritional requirements of very young or very old people may be different from the needs of others. Some cultures prefer a slim body to a well-rounded one, so people are always trying to lose weight. They may follow popular diets, such as a low-carb diet, an eating system high in protein but low in refined carbohydrates. Other reasons for diet habits around the world. Unlike individual food plans, the diets of whole cultures and regions come from location, history, and tradition. For example, the typical Mexican diet is a combination of foods from pre-Columbian, Spanish, and French cultures. It is rich in complex carbohydrates, corn, beans, rice, breads, and protein, beans, eggs, fish, meat. Fish and fish products from the seas around Japan are one of the most important parts of the traditional Japanese diet. Rich in vitamins and minerals, seafood is served grilled, baked, raw, dried, pickled, hot, and cold. Soy products, miso, tofu, and bean paste, fermented vegetables, and rice are also important in the typical Japanese diet. Religious practices may also greatly affect diet. For instance, some Jewish people keep kosher, follow the requirements of Jewish food preparation and eating. These laws prohibit eating pork or bacon or other meat from pigs, shellfish, snake, or insects. In addition, people should not eat meat and dairy, milk products, at the same meal. In a similar way, Muslims follow the laws of eating halal, an Islamic system of eating only permitted foods. Some foods, such as pork or insects, are not permitted. Though people can eat some meat, such as beef, from cows, the animals must be killed in a special way, according to ritual. Also, for religious reasons, some Christians eat fish instead of meat on Fridays. They also limit their food choices during Lent, the 40 days before Easter in the spring. Conclusion and summary: the global diet. Universally, more and more meals include basic necessary food elements, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Almost everywhere, some kind of meat, fish, dairy product, or another food with protein is part of a good breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There are also grains, breads, vegetables, fruit, and the like. Many dishes contain the necessary vitamins and minerals. A few families grow their own food, but most people buy food from eating places and markets in their communities. Food may be fresh, prepared, canned, frozen, or packaged. Fast food is very popular, and maybe it is becoming healthier. In some ways, diet choices are becoming more and more similar around the world. Even so, the variety of food choices is large now and is probably going to increase. Are cooking customs, eating habits, and food preferences all over the world becoming more or less healthy? Are they better or worse for human beings? These questions are interesting topics of research and discussion.
Page 48, Chapter 3, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Bugs. Caffeine. Cancer. Cholesterol. Desserts. Diabetes. Discussion. Effects. Fiber. Grains. Heart disease. Ingredients. Medicine. Memory. Nutrients. Nutritionists. Opinions. Specialists. Strokes. Substances. Whole grains. Verbs. Affect. Allow. Support. Adjectives. Available. Home cooked. industrialized, opposite, perfect, related, required, spicy, adverb, financially, phrases, brain power, in contrast.
Page 49, Chapter 3, Part 2, Activity 3. Choosing titles and recognizing topic sentences.
Facts about food. Food fights. Everywhere on Earth there are food specialists with opposite or different opinions on the best kinds of nutrition for various purposes. A lot of people believe that the healthiest diets are high in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, but low in fat, cholesterol, sugar, and salt. Some nutritionists say the perfect eating plan contains mostly carbohydrates without much protein. In contrast, other scientists say people need high-protein meals with meat, chicken, fish, or milk products, and only small amounts of grains, potatoes, breads, rice, and noodles. One famous diet plan allows only certain foods at certain times: protein with protein, carbohydrates with carbohydrates, fruits alone, and so on. Some eaters stay away from all meat and maybe even fish and milk products. They get their protein from plants, mostly beans. Others want only high-fiber food. These people may not eat white bread or white rice or even cooked vegetables. So, what is the best way to eat and be healthy? The discussion of food facts will go on far into the future. The necessary substances and elements for human life and health are water, protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Most kinds of food contain some or all of the required nutrients, but these substances have different effects on people. Various ingredients and dishes affect the mind in different ways, and some kinds of nourishment have better effects on the brain than others. For instance, can broccoli increase brain power? Maybe so. Low levels of some of the B vitamins can cause a decrease in memory and thinking ability, nutritionists say. But dark green vegetables like broccoli contain a lot of these nutrients. Another example of a memory helper is lecithin, a substance from soybeans also found in high-fiber foods like nuts and whole grains. High-protein foods influence the mind in more helpful ways than dishes high in sugar and carbohydrates, and the caffeine in coffee or tea may help thinking. Of course, its effects don't last long. In many places outside big cities, food with more than 4 legs is part of good, healthy home cooking. Fried or grilled ants are a tasty but expensive snack in Colombia, South America. In various parts of Mexico, over 300 types of insects serve as food. In southern Africa, many people like to eat at least one kind of caterpillar or worm. They enjoy it fried, dried, or cooked in tomato sauce. In Thailand, cooks create a spicy hot pepper sauce with water bugs. In Vietnam, grasshoppers filled with peanuts are a special dish. And in some regions of China, bugs are not only a part of meals, but an important ingredient in medicine too. Most kinds of insects have high nutritional value. They contain a lot of protein, vitamins, and minerals. Many people like their taste. They are everywhere on the planet. They add to the variety of people's diets. For several reasons, insects are an important kind of food in the global diet, and they may become a more common ingredient in the future. The growing similarities in diet and eating habits around the world are influencing people of various cultures in different ways. For example, Western foods are damaging health in the industrialized island country of Japan. Instead of small meals of seafood, rice, and vegetables, the typical Japanese diet now includes large amounts of meat, dairy products, like whole milk ice cream, and desserts like tiramisu, a rich Italian dish full of chocolate, cheese, and sugar. According to Japanese health researchers, such changes in eating habits are related to a great increase in health problems such as heart disease, strokes, cancer, and diabetes. On the other hand, the changing global diet is having the opposite effect on the people in the Czech Republic. The government of this European nation no longer supports meat and dairy products financially, so the cost of these foods is going up. In contrast, fresh fruits and vegetables are becoming more widely available from private markets and stands. Cooks are even serving salads to school children, and families are eating healthier home-cooked meals. For these reasons, fewer Czech men are having heart attacks, the women are losing a lot of weight, and most people are living healthier lives.
Chapter 4, In the Community. Page 63, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Applications. Comments. Content. Harassment. Level. Location. Motivation. Network. Reality. Resources. Responsibilities. Retirement. Risk. Sites. Steps. Verbs. Connect. Contribute. Exist. Interact. Keep going. Observe. Participate. Recognize. Tend to. Adjectives. Committed. Delayed. Geographical. Huge. Involved. Physical. Real life. Spiritual. Virtual. Wireless. Adverbs. Forever. However. Nowadays. Occasionally. Relatively. Therefore. Phrases. Even so. General truth. Socially acceptable.
Page 63, Chapter 4, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
What makes a virtual community? The most traditional definition of a human community was a group of people larger than a family that interact. A community may include people who have at least one common point of interest. In the past, community members lived relatively close to one another in one geographical location, in the same building, on the same street, in the same neighborhood or area, or in the same village, town, or city. Nowadays, however, the word community can mean a national, an international, worldwide, or even an online group of interacting individuals. Therefore, a new definition of community might be a group of people that recognize that they have something in common. A few kinds of communities share both physical location and other features. One example is a retirement community for people over a certain age. Another is an intentional community, a group with resources, responsibilities, or a common purpose, such as a social, economic, political, or spiritual goal. On college or university campuses, for instance, they may live in places like residence halls, fraternity or sorority houses, housing cooperatives, or special interest housing. In other areas of life, intentional communities can be business, school, church, or other groups that live, work, or at least meet in person. Many other interacting groups nowadays, however, are virtual communities. Their members seldom, if ever, get together physically. Instead, they connect from a distance over the Internet, on computers, smartphones, and other wireless devices. Research into these kinds of groups is relatively new. Even so, some of their features are similar to those of real-life communities. Others are very different. What kinds of meeting places exist online? Individuals might get together in forums, chat rooms, email discussion groups, and community areas within big social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and others. They may make use of blog posts and comments, wikis, websites on which anyone can change content, or web widgets, small applications that perform a task. And what features do these virtual locations have in common? First, they are likely to include print, audio, visual, and/or moving content about topics of interest to members. Second, participants can probably communicate with delayed timing, as through email or news groups. And third, people may connect in real time, like through chatting, texting, or other kinds of instant messaging. Their interaction is like real-life networking. Just as in real-life social communities of the past and present, members of virtual communities tend to participate in general steps. As an illustration, individuals might first observe from the outside. Second, they begin to take part as newcomers. If they participate regularly, contribute to community purposes, if any, and perhaps take risks, they become committed insiders. Full members may turn into leaders who take responsibility for others. Their participation is likely to help keep the community going and growing. Finally, some retirees leave the network for various reasons, perhaps because of new relationships in different locations, changing interests, or problems in other areas of their lives. Or they may not have enough time, energy, or other resources to continue contributing. What do social researchers know about online communities? One general truth is that they tend to vary widely. For instance, there may be no, only a few, or a huge number of people involved in a site at any one time. They may participate for only a short time or forever. The level of commitment, caring of full members is likely to differ greatly too. So is the amount of time and energy they contribute. Some people are doing something online virtually all the time. Others take part only occasionally. Also, people are likely to be involved in different ways. For example, some only get, read or hear content, but don't add any or much information of their own. And finally, the element that connects people in a network can be almost anything, like any common identity, purpose, interest, problem, need, belief, experience, or another motivation. So why do virtual communities exist? How do individuals decide to get or stay in or keep far away from them? According to researchers, the three most motivating elements are payback, obligation, and social acceptance. First, the advantages of membership must turn out to be worth the cost, like the amount of time, energy, money, or other resources contributed. Second, if people are committed to an interacting group, they may feel they must keep contributing. And third, people are more likely to stay in a socially acceptable group or a network in which they feel accepted and valued by others. A great advantage of online communities is that they build relationships among many different kinds of people. Age, cultural identity, and lifestyle become unimportant. But what are potential challenges of virtual relating? First, there may truly be risk involved, or people may feel unsafe in various ways, such as financially, physically, personally, or socially. Identity is another possible problem. Individuals don't have to tell the truth about themselves online, so there can be deception involved. A third possibility is online harassment, trying to harm others over the net on purpose. And finally, if there is not enough privacy about true or false information, members can get themselves and others into big trouble. In summary, virtual communities are similar to groups that exist in physical reality in several ways: in their definitions, purposes, steps members take to get into and out of them, reasons they exist, and potential challenges, risks, deception, harassment, privacy. Is continuing and growing interaction online likely to improve human relationships? Or will it change the definition of community into something completely different in today's physical and virtual world?
Page 70, Chapter 4, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Arrangement. Dependence. Design. Infrastructure. Neighborhoods. Organization. Sensors. Suburbs. Technology. Transportation. Verbs. Attract. Monitor. Organize. Adjectives. Attractive. Compact. Informal. Low income. Organized. Rural. Structured. Suburban. Urban. Adverb. Especially.
Page 71, Chapter 4, Part 2, Activity 3, Skimming for Main Ideas.
Communities in real-life locations. Like virtual communities in cyberspace, most real-life communities in the physical world have some kind of design or organization. Residents spend their time in and outside houses and buildings. These structures are usually on streets, in rural areas, or village, town, and city neighborhoods. Each of these places may contain a few, or a large number of interacting groups. How might such communities be organized, if at all? According to social researchers, the first existing villages or small towns had only informal agreements about human needs, such as housing, food, land, work, and money. These understandings were between neighbors and a leader or a leading group. As towns grew into small cities, government became structured, more and more organized. As cities became bigger, more crowded, noisier, and more dangerous, however, families with greater resources moved to suburbs outside of town to have more space. These moves not only changed the design of urban areas, but also created transportation problems, dependence on cars to go to school, work, shopping areas, social events, and other people's houses. There was less and less sense of community, especially among people of different ages, lifestyles, or cultural backgrounds.
CD1 Interactions 1 Reading by Elaine Kern and Pamela Hartman. Copyright 2013 by the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated. No part of this publication may be reproduced or distributed in any form or by any means, or stored in a database or retrieval system without the prior written consent of the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated, including but not limited to any network or other electronic storage or transmission for broadcast or distance learning.
Social scientists believe that huge urban areas have negative effects on people. For instance, residents of large cities tend to be more depressed, irritable, and nervous than people in rural environments. City planners in the 20th century, therefore, designed beautiful cities. Urban design involved the arrangement of attractive structures, mostly tall buildings, public spaces, streets, spacious suburban communities, pleasant parks, necessary resources, industrial areas, and social housing for low-income residents. Its purpose was to make connections between people and places, their movement in and outside the city, and nature. In the 21st century, in contrast, community organizers consider beautiful urban and suburban areas wasteful, too expensive, to keep up in difficult economic times. Some also think they are bad for residents, especially children and retirees. The best communities, they feel, are lively neighborhoods with different kinds of people interacting and experiencing life. These are the best places to live, work, and spend time in. Smart cities in the world today tend to be more compact, arranged economically in less space than 20th century urban areas. The first and most common definition of a smart city has to do with technology, especially in urban infrastructure, basic organization of resources, sites, and transportation among them. There are three elements of infrastructure: sensors that monitor movement, sound, and other features of the physical environment, the computing cloud in cyberspace that organizes the information, and the change that happens because of it. Many such areas have wireless computer networks. Often, occupants contribute knowledge to its organization, too, probably through their smartphones, the computers they carry around with them. A more general phrase, intelligent city design, may include smart technology, but its focus is on people. It includes a smart economy, smart transportation, a smart environment, smart living, and smart government. Most likely, the purpose of all this structure is to compete more successfully in the business world. Community organizing may be defined as getting neighborhood residents together to influence decision-making that impacts their lives. It is different from community organization, structure, or design. The three main kinds of organizing groups are grassroots, of the common people, faith-based, church-related, and coalition building, connecting separate interest groups. Groups choose or produce their own leaders. Community organizers try to attract and educate people, to build commitment, and to win causes. They are open, ever-changing groups. Their main goals are to empower residents, especially regular people of various ages, lifestyles, incomes, and cultural backgrounds, and to care about their own and others' environments, needs, and values. Together, organization members try to influence powerful decision-makers in business, government, and other institutions involved in their communities, towns, cities, and larger areas.
End of CD 1.
Chapter 5, Home. Page 87, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Architects. Branches. Camp, camper. Centuries. Civilizations. Clay. Frames, framing. Generations. Invention. Mansions. Manufacturing. Necessity. Pipes. Plaster. Property. Protection. Shelter. Tools. Weapons. Verbs. Construct. Develop. Discover. Entertain. Fill in. Form. Produce. Range from to. Adjectives. Ancient. Durable. Flat. Fortified. Hardened. Homeless. Permanent. Prehistoric. Temporary.
Page 87, Chapter 5, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
At home in world history. Prehistoric times, shelter as basic human necessity. After food and clothing necessary for survival, the most important basic need is shelter. Throughout human history, people have needed protection from the elements, wind, rain, storms, cold, sun. Before they discovered how to build structures, human beings found shelter in trees, which provided protection from extreme weather, insects, wild animals, and other dangers. The earliest people began to feel at home in caves. In the Stone Age, a prehistoric period of about 2 million years, human builders arranged branches on top of one another to make themselves places to live. With stone tools, prehistoric builders created tents out of animal skins, or they put big stones together to build shelters. Later generations created homes from the earth itself. They formed bricks out of clay and dried them in the sun. The first roofs, building coverings, were of earth and plants. Everywhere in the world where there were human beings, necessity led to invention. The centuries BCE, BC. Housing in ancient civilizations. As centuries passed, housing styles depended on the natural environment, the climate, and available resources of various areas of the world. The architects of ancient civilizations, like those of Egypt around 3000 BC, Assyria from perhaps 2000 to 600 BC, Greece in the centuries before and after 500 BC, and Rome from the 8th century BC, designed flat-topped houses. The clay blocks of their structures were baked in ovens and glazed. Then came slanted roof coverings of glazed clay tile for rain and snow to slide off, central heating from pipes with hot water or air moving through them, and heavy wooden frames filled in with hardened earth. Later ancient generations constructed houses of durable wooden framing filled in with plaster, brick, or stone. The Middle Ages, CE AD. Houses of the common people versus the powerful. In the European Middle Ages, beginning in the 5th century, most structures were cold, wet, and dark. Sometimes it was warmer and lighter outside a home than within its walls. The simple one-room houses of the poor had only small windows without glass, covered with wood at night, hard earth floors and plant roofs, which could catch fire when occupants were cooking or heating inside. Common people with greater resources could build more durable homes that included stone or mud brick walls, hard tiled floors, framed windows, safer fireplaces, and protection against the elements and dangerous outsiders. Some groups of buildings developed into fortified castles. With their thick stone walls, the main purpose of these fortresses for the wealthy and powerful was security, not only of their owners, but also of their families, workers, animals, food, weapons, and valued resources. The 18th to 20th centuries, improvements and choices in housing. The discoveries and inventions of the 18th and 19th century Industrial Revolution, a time of worldwide changes in technology, led to great improvements in housing construction. With manufacturing and the availability of more kinds of materials, architects designed with 3 goals in mind: durability, practicality, and beauty. Accommodations ranged from the simplest of shelters, such as tents, covered frames, or caves, to durable wood, stone, or brick construction for common people, to huge mansions with land for the very rich or powerful. The modern world. Attitudes towards home. For most people, home has been a place to take care of the young or to feel safe while growing up. In the modern world, this is still true. However, the types of housing people live in varies widely. Housing may be permanent, a family house or apartment, or temporary, a place to camp for a season, a student dorm room, or a shelter for a homeless family. Wherever the place, humans have a strong attachment to home. Thus the saying, "There's no place like home." People often develop feelings of homesickness, discomfort, depression, or health problems when they are away from the familiar things and people of home. Most world travelers feel homesick eventually. Only a few individuals say they can feel at home anywhere, or call any place in the world their home. The question, what makes a house a home, is likely to produce a large variety of answers. The world today. Laws and social values related to housing. In some areas of the world, basic government laws and social values have guaranteed and may continue to give people a legal right to some kind of shelter. This guarantee also appears in the 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In some places, there are fair housing laws to protect against housing discrimination based on race, nationality, sex, health, family situation, or lifestyle. Even so, most people's housing situations depend on their ability to pay under economic conditions of the time, personal, national, or worldwide. A large number have lost their homes because they cannot pay their mortgages, money owed on their property, or the rising costs of renting. Nature continues to play a role. Some people are homeless because of natural disasters like earthquakes or hurricanes. Unsheltered people need warmer climates or pleasant weather to sleep outside. Others, in the past mostly young men but now more and more women and children, find shelter in cars or campers, in temporary camps, in homeless or warming shelters, or simply on the street. Throughout world history, a general definition of homelessness has been the condition of people without a regular place of nighttime residence. There have been different solutions to the problem in the past. These will continue to vary. The future: housing design and purposes. Social scientists, researchers, and architects that think about future housing agree. It is likely to look and feel different from today. Modern designers and thinkers have suggested housing under or above the earth, perhaps connected to trees, caves, stone, or other natural features in creative ways. They base their ideas on past, present, and possible future human necessities, such as physical health, energy efficiency, and use of technology. Another goal may be survival, including protection against natural disasters, extreme weather, and dangers created by other humans. Also, many people want to decrease the environmental impact of their housing, perhaps with buildings that produce their own energy. Housing plans and construction in the future is likely to involve the latest technological discoveries and inventions. Even so, it may have a lot in common with housing of the past, and there will always be the human need to call someplace home.
Page 95, Chapter 5, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns: descendants, forefathers, obligation, offerings, offspring, punishments, slaves, society, trend, youngsters, verbs: beat, control, feed, guide, obey, reside, sacrifice, spoil. Adjectives: adequate, global, independent, wealthy.
Page 95, Chapter 5, Part 2, Activity 3, Skimming for Main Ideas.
A short history of... What has the word family meant in history? From prehistoric to modern times, the idea has most often had to do with shared living facilities. The first families were simply groups of people that shared general survival goals in a common residence. Their main purposes were to produce and protect offspring, new humans, to continue the race. Then, in religious civilizations BC, before the birth of Christ, human beings were seen as descendants of the various gods, or of the forefathers, first heads of their peoples. In ancient Roman society, men headed family groups that included wives, growing and grown children, and slaves with their offspring. Later, in pre-industrial Europe, there were both nuclear family structures, parents and their children, and larger extended families of more than 2 generations. A family's size depended on how long its members lived and could care for one another. Its social standing or class depended on property ownership and power over other groups of people. Because of new work and living conditions in the Industrial Revolution, however, people began connecting outside their families. Government, society, and social institutions started to play a role in meeting human needs. In modern times, some family forms have been like those of the past, but there have also been many individuals residing alone. Unmarried, childless, and same-sex couples sharing homes, single-parent, joined, and communal living groups, and so on. There has never been one true family form. The idea of family is likely to continue developing in the future, but it will probably stay connected to the idea of home.
Chapter 6, Cultures of the World, page 109, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Architecture. Cathedrals. Civilization. Contradiction. Discoveries. Legacy. Literature. Media. Medicine. Societies. Weapons. Verbs. Agree. Contradict. Contribute. Describe. Develop. Experience. Grin. Interrupt. Invent. Adjectives. Amazing. Ancient. Clear. Cultural. Enthusiastic. Excellent. Knowing. Opposing. Pleasant. Proud. Scientific. Social. Soft. Adverbs. Convincingly. Politely.
Page 109, Chapter 6, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
Cross-cultural conversation. You want to talk about culture? Alan began the conversation in a proud voice. The United States is only a few hundred years old. Americans don't really have any culture. I mean, Americans are interesting, but they have zero culture. He made the sign for nothing with his hand. I agree with you, said Werner. He was pointing at Alan with his finger. Old Europe of the last 1,000 years. Now that's where the great culture was. The age of architecture, the magnificent historical cathedrals and castles are beautiful. It's essential to see the works of world-famous painters and sculptors from previous centuries in our excellent museums. And everyone should experience our classical literature and music in the best theaters and concert halls. Excuse me for interrupting, Alan, Werner apologized, but I just gave a perfect example of a long and significant cultural history. Camille spoke up. You know, we don't call a short millennium a cultural history. The real beginning of culture, significant civilization, was in the Middle East and Africa over 5,000 years ago. He continued, waving both hands in the air. Ancient communities not only knew how to create magnificent architecture and art, they also made amazing scientific and technological discoveries. They invented things. For instance, they figured out how to write and do mathematics. They studied astronomy, the science of the skies, the sun, and the planets. They invented the calendar. They even had medicine. The ancient religions came from that area too. Their achievements made world civilization possible. Those were the civilizations that gave humanity the most meaningful cultural legacy. May agreed with Camille. In a soft but knowing voice, she added, "But the really important science and technology began to develop in Asia and the Americas. While the ancient Chinese were building walled cities, they organized the first governments. They invented tools for work and weapons for protection. And the native peoples of the Americas had very, very old civilizations and societies. That was ancient traditional culture." Ancient culture? That's a contradiction in definitions. Grinning, Karen objected in an enthusiastic, friendly way. She gave a contrasting opinion. It's impossible for culture to be old or traditional, she argued. The opposite is true. Culture isn't dead, it's alive. Culture is modern, culture is now. Kenji was starting to fall asleep, but suddenly he was fully awake. I agree, he said, interrupting Karen enthusiastically. You tell them, said Karen, appreciating the support for her point of view. For emphasis, she nodded vigorously. Culture is worldwide, it's universal. Kenji went on in his clear speaking style. He had a wide smile on his face. I mean, like, take today's food culture. With our global fast food, I have to say, everyone eats the same. And because of the worldwide media, movies, TV, CDs, compact discs, the internet, everybody knows the same information, plays the same music, enjoys the same stories, even the jokes. And I mean, it's like people everywhere want to buy the same clothes, all because of advertising. A beautiful young couple in jeans and bright Hawaiian shirts anywhere in the world, eating hamburgers and French fries with their friends from many countries. Finally, we have a global culture, and tradition has nothing to do with it. Nadia, however, was of another opinion. You want to call modern movies, music, food, and clothes culture? She said sweetly but convincingly. Those things don't describe culture. Culture isn't about the sameness of people in communities around the world. It's about their differences. Like, it's important for people to greet one another in various ways, and they need to use different titles and follow a variety of social rules in their relationships. Some societies are formal while others are informal or casual. Some groups are friendly and others aren't. And another example is the diverse use of language. Is it direct or indirect? How do communication styles include motions, gestures, facial expressions, and other body language? And customs are so interesting. They're what people of different national groups do in their everyday lives and on special occasions like holidays or celebrations. Culture means cultural diversity. What makes life amusing? It's the variety of cultures around the world. It's contradictions and opposites. Yeah, maybe so, contributed Alan as politely as possible. On the other hand, he started to say. That does make some sense, interrupted Werner, beginning to smile, as long as you don't forget the arts, architecture, painting, literature, music. And if you also include ancient civilizations and traditions, added Camille with a pleasant expression on his face. He didn't like to contradict Nadia or any of his female friends. Well, we can certainly have opposing viewpoints, concluded Karen, and yet we still enjoy exchanging ideas. Everyone was smiling, and they wanted to talk a lot more.
Page 114, Chapter 6, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Attention. Bite. Customer. Guest. host, pain, pharmacist, pharmacy, service, verbs, beg, clean his plate, greet, hitchhike, ignore, serve, shout, wait on someone, whisper, adjectives, afraid, annoyed, insulted, mean, rude, successful, terrible, tourist places, unwelcome, adverbs, backwards, loudly, patiently, rudely.
Page 115, Chapter 6, Part 2, Activity 2. Reading stories with anecdotes.
Clues to world cultures. An Irish woman was visiting tourist places in a Latin American city when she got a terrible headache. She knew what medicine she needed, so she went to a local pharmacy. The pharmacist was waiting on another customer when she came in. The Irish woman patiently waited her turn. While she was standing there, 2 other customers came in, then another, and then 3 more. Each time the pharmacist turned his attention to the new people. He did not greet the Irish woman. He never said, "I'll be with you in a minute." After about 20 minutes, the woman couldn't stand the pain in her head any longer. "Hey, I've been here a long time," she said loudly, very annoyed and insulted. "Why is everyone ignoring me? I need service too," she shouted rudely, impolitely.
Chapter 7, Health, page 133, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Altitude, average, benefits, claims, disease, environment, inhabitants, length, longevity, population, preservatives, streams, stress, theories, verbs, consume, cure, prevent, solve, theorize, adjectives, active, available, different, famous, long-lived, moderate, unpolluted, valid, connectors, as a result, furthermore, however, in addition, moreover, nevertheless, therefore, thus.
Page 133, Chapter 7, Part 1, Activity 4. Reading an article.
The Secrets of a Very Long Life. Introduction. There are several places in the world that are famous for people who live a very long time. These places are usually in mountainous areas, far away from modern cities. Even so, doctors, scientists, and public health experts often travel to these regions to solve the mystery of a long, healthy life. In this way, the experts hope to bring to the modern world the secrets of longevity. Hunza in the Himalayan mountains. Hunza is at a very high altitude in the Himalayan mountains of Asia. There, many people over 100 years of age are still in good physical health. Additionally, men of 90 are new fathers, and women of 50 still have babies. What are the reasons for this good health? Scientists believe that the people of Hunza have these three main advantages or benefits. 1. A healthful, unpolluted environment with clean air and water. 2. A simple diet high in vitamins, fiber, and nutrition, but low in fat, cholesterol, sugar, and unnatural chemicals. And 3. Physical work and other activities, usually in the fields or with animals. The Russian Caucasians and Vilcabamba. People in the Caucasus Mountains in Russia are also famous for their longevity. Official birth records were not available, but the community says a woman called Surba lived until age 160. Similarly, a man called Shirali probably lived until 168. Moreover, his widow was 120 years old. In general, the people not only live a long time, but they also live well. In other words, they are almost never sick. Furthermore, when they die, they not only have their own teeth, but also a full head of hair and good eyesight too. Vilcabamba, Ecuador is another area famous for the longevity of its inhabitants. This mountain region, like Hunza and the Caucasus, is also at a very high altitude, far away from cities. In Vilcabamba, too, there is very little serious disease. One reason for the good health of the people might be the clean, beautiful environment. Another advantage is the moderate climate. The temperature is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit all year long. Furthermore, the wind always comes from the same direction. In addition, the water comes from mountain streams and is high in minerals. Perhaps as a result of this valuable resource, the region is rich in flowers, fruits, vegetables, and wildlife. Differences in the diets of people with unusual longevity. In some ways, the diets of the inhabitants in the three regions are quite different. Hunzukuts eat mainly raw vegetables, fruit, especially apricots, and chapatis, a kind of pancake. They eat meat only a few times a year. In contrast, the Caucasian diet consists mainly of milk, cheese, vegetables, fruit, and meat. Also, most people there drink the local red wine daily. In Vilcabamba, people eat only a small amount of meat each week. Their diet consists mostly of grain, corn, beans, potatoes, and fruit. Even so, experts found one surprising fact in the mountains of Ecuador. Most people there, even the very old, consume a lot of coffee, drink large amounts of alcohol, and smoke 40 to 60 cigarettes daily. Similarities in diet. However, the typical diets of the three areas are similar in three general ways. 1. The fruits and vegetables are all natural, that is, they contain no preservatives or other chemicals. 2. Furthermore, the population uses traditional herbs and medicines to prevent and cure disease. 3. The inhabitants consume fewer calories than people do in other parts of the world. A typical North American eats and drinks an average of 3,300 calories every day, while a typical inhabitant of these mountainous areas takes in between 1,700 and 2,000 calories. Other possible reasons for healthy longevity. Inhabitants in the three regions have more in common than their mountain environment, their distance from modern cities, and their low-calorie natural diets. Because they live in the countryside and are mostly farmers, their lives are physically hard and extremely active. Therefore, they do not need to try to exercise. In addition, the population does not seem to have the stress of fast city work and recreation. As a result, people's lives are relatively free from worry, and therefore illness or other health problems. Thus, some experts believe that physical movement and a stress-free environment might be the two most important secrets of longevity. An additional health advantage of life in these long-lived communities may be the extended family structure. The group takes care of its members from birth to death. The validity of longevity claims. Nevertheless, some doctors theorize that members of especially long-lived populations have only one thing in common. They don't have valid official government birth records. These health scientists think there is a natural limit to the length of human life. In their theories, it is impossible to reach an age of more than 110 years or so. Therefore, they say, claims of unusual longevity in certain groups are probably false.
Page 141, Chapter 7, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary. Nouns. Advice. Bacteria. Birth defects. Characteristics. Cherry juice. Combination. Cure. Damage. Decisions. Engineering. Folk medicine. Genes. Geneticists. Joints. Length. Parasites. Patients. Physiologist. Senior citizens. Specialists. Viruses. Verbs. Color. Correct. Determine. Oppose. Recommend. Take advantage of. Adjectives. Accurate. Dishonest. Elderly. Fraudulent. Genetic. Proven. Sour.
Page 141, Chapter 7, Part 2, Activity 2, Understanding Facts and Opinions.
Claims to amazing health. On the subject of physical health and medical research, there are thousands of amazing websites where people can get information. However, when does the amount of available information affect its validity and health benefits? The Internet is greatly influencing people's attitudes about their own health care. Probably, this worldwide cultural trend improves global health. Because computer users can look up almost any topic of interest to them, they become their own researchers. In the busy modern world, doctors don't always take the time to explain illnesses and possible remedies to their patients. They may not give scientific details in words that are easy to understand either. For this reason, many hopeful people take advantage of internet resources to find the facts they need for good medical decisions. But are the beliefs of experts always completely accurate or real? Are they helpful to everyone that needs advice on a specific medical condition? The health products or books that seem the most wonderful are often the most fraudulent, that is, dishonest or false. Do sick or worried people expect too much when they look for clear, easy answers to difficult health questions or problems on the computer?
CD2 Interactions 1 Reading by Elaine Kern and Pamela Hartman. Copyright 2013 by the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated. No part of this publication may be reproduced or distributed in any form or by any means, or stored in a database or retrieval system without the prior written consent of the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated, including but not limited to any network or other electronic storage or transmission for broadcast or distance learning.
What are genes, and why are medical researchers always trying to find out more about them? Genes are part of the center, that is, the nucleus, of every living cell in the form of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. This biological genetic material determines the characteristics, features, of every living thing, every plant, animal, and human being on Earth. Medical geneticists are scientists that study DNA and genes for many purposes. 1. To learn how living things such as parasites, viruses, and bacteria cause illness. 2. To find the gene or combination of genes that cause certain diseases to pass from parents to their children. 3. To prevent or correct, repair, birth defects. 4. To change gene structure to improve health and increase the length of human life, longevity. And 5. To change the biological characteristics of animals and humans in ways that are beneficial to society. Another use of genetic technology that some scientists support is changing the genes of the food farmers grow. Genetic engineers claim that these differences in DNA structure will increase food production, prevent damage from insects, and improve world health. In contrast, others oppose the use of genetic engineering, not only in plants, but also in animals and humans.
End of CD2.
Social scientists have identified several main methods of parenting, child rearing throughout history. Up to about the 4th century AD, it was acceptable to sacrifice, make offerings of, the young to the gods for religious purposes. Families without the resources to feed or take care of their offspring sometimes threw them into rivers, wild areas, or pits to die. Some of those that survived were used as slaves. In following centuries, from around the 5th to the 13th, parents used to send their children away for years to wet nurses that could give them milk or to religious communities like monasteries. Poorer families used to make their growing youngsters live with and work for the wealthy, or they sold their young. Around the 14th century, both poor and rich parents began developing closer ties to their offspring. But their main goal was to control them. It was common to bind up babies in clothing so they couldn't move, to tie children to heavy furniture, or to beat them so they would obey, follow orders. The next trend started in the 18th century, when there was less child beating and punishment, but more parental control in raising children, acceptance or love only in exchange for obedience. By the end of the 19th century, in contrast, parents were starting to consider their youngsters' needs and personalities by guiding their development rather than controlling it. They were still careful not to spoil their children, however. And in modern times, the focus has been on relationships, values, and helping, so that the young can grow into responsible, independent adults able to raise their own offspring. Some even try to raise global children that feel at home with worldwide technology, culture, and networking. In prehistoric times, groups of humans simply built the shelters they needed for survival, or they competed over land, natural materials, and resources for secure places to live. But in ancient civilizations, land ownership became the base of wealth and power. Everyone lived on the land, but few people owned or controlled it. The idea of land ownership and private property became even more important in the Middle Ages, when the common people paid rent by working for or giving things to wealthy or powerful landowners. Through the centuries, it was mostly religious leaders and organizations that recognized an obligation to help the very poor, the needy, and the homeless. The 1948 United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights tried to guarantee the right to adequate housing, more than 4 walls and a roof, as part of an economic, social, and cultural right to a standard of living. But in modern times, there have been few societies where housing was simply given to those that needed it. In some countries, there have been fair housing laws to prevent discrimination based on race, nationality, sex, health, age, family form, or economic situation. Even so, in today's world economy, there are many individuals and families unable to find, own, rent, or share the housing necessary for an adequate standard of living. Since human history began, people have needed shelter for survival and safety. Even so, not everyone has been able to live their lives in 4-walled roofed structures. Reasons for homelessness have varied, perhaps poverty, not having or being able to get enough money to pay for basic necessities, physical or mental illness, drug abuse, misuse of harmful substances, natural disasters or fires, war, crime or abuse by government or people in power, discrimination, relationship problems, the construction of expensive accommodations in place of low-cost ones, or economic conditions. In some places, there have been terrible punishments for living on the street. In 14th century England, for instance, unsheltered people could be put in prison, beaten, made slaves, sent to other countries, or even killed. Hundreds of years later, the government tried to shelter some of the homeless in workhouses, miserable places to live. In more recent centuries, communities that recognized the problem opened old buildings for the neediest men to sleep in dormitory style. Until it became illegal to do so, some people slept in public places such as churches, libraries, and government buildings. These solutions were never enough, however. Neither are today's homeless or warming winter shelters for adults and families. Many thousands of years since the beginning of human society, there are still millions of people without housing for an adequate standard of living.
Many specialists have their own theories about illness and health. As an example, a California physiologist, someone who studies biology, has written books with the titles the cure for all diseases, and the cure for all cancers. She says there are only two causes of disease. 1. Pollution of the environment, and 2. Parasites, harmful plants and animals that feed on living things inside the human body. To prevent or cure the illnesses that these parasitic bacteria and viruses cause, she tries to sell, two kinds of health products on the internet and in other places: electronic machines and herbal medicines. The two beneficial effects of these items in humans and animals, this scientist claims, are 1. To clean out the body, freeing it of parasites, and 2. To rebuild new healthy living cells. According to her theories, people will feel better and live longer as a result. In addition, other medical experts recommend kinds of natural, non-traditional, or non-Western remedies for modern health disorders, such as heart disease, cancer, asthma, nervousness, depression, and so on. Their advice might include 1. Special diet plans with added vitamins and minerals. 2. Folk medicine. 3. Environmental changes, or 4. Unusual therapies that patients don't get from traditional doctors. In a small-town farm market, hundreds of elderly people drink a glass of sour, dark cherry juice every day. These happy senior citizens, some of them over the age of 90, claim that the natural fruit juice cures, or at least decreases, the pain of their arthritis, a disease of the joints of the aging body. It's a folk remedy, not a proven medical therapy. Nevertheless, science is beginning to figure out why sour cherry juice might work to improve the health of patients with arthritis. The secret is in the substance that gives the cherries their dark red color. It belongs to a classification of natural nutrients that color blueberries, strawberries, plums, and other fruits, and vegetables too. Moreover, these coloring substances may help to prevent serious health disorders like heart disease and cancer. In other words, vitamins and fiber are not the only reasons to eat fruits and vegetables. To take advantage of natural whole foods, advise nutritionists and health researchers, think variety and color.
A group of international students were attending college in Europe. They had a long time between semesters for travel, so they decided to hitchhike as far as they could in other countries. In many places, they were successful. They put their thumbs out or pointed them backwards and smiled. Friendly drivers stopped. As soon as the first traveler got a yes answer from a driver, he motioned with his hand or fingers for his friends to come, or he held up both thumbs in an OK sign, or made a circle with the thumb and the next finger of one hand. The young tourists saved money, saw a lot of the countryside, and had interesting conversations and experiences. On the other hand, in Greece and Turkey, the visitors were not so lucky. Few drivers stopped to give them rides. Instead, most people ignored them. Others gave them mean looks from their cars. They seemed almost insulted that the visitors were begging for rides. A few drivers shouted terrible words at the travelers. 2 even got out of their truck and started a fight. The students thought the drivers were very rude. They felt confused, afraid, and unwelcome. After a few days, the students took the bus back to the countries where they were studying. A Middle Eastern businessman and his brother invited an American guest to their family home for dinner. The American got there on time and enjoyed the interesting conversation, the tea, and the attention. But as time passed, he got very, very hungry. Finally, he politely whispered to his host, "Excuse me, but are we going to eat dinner?" "Of course," answered his host. "We usually serve the evening meal around 9 o'clock, and when we have guests, we enjoy the long conversation before dinner." At the dinner table, everything was delicious, and the hungry American guest ate quickly. He emptied his plate, and his host put more food on it. As soon as he cleaned his plate a second time, the host gave him more. After several plates of food, he could eat no more. He was going to burst. "Please, please, please, don't give me any more food," he begged them. "I finished the food on this plate, but I can't eat another bite." Even then, his host insisted. The guest accepted a little more and ate it with difficulty. Finally, the supper dishes were removed. There was more conversation with more tea and coffee. At about midnight, the server brought a pitcher of ice water. The tired American knew it was okay to thank his hosts and leave.
Chapter 8, Entertainment and the Media. Page 161. Part 1. Activity 3. Previewing vocabulary.
Nouns. Addiction. Adults. Behavior. Disadvantages. Hospitals. Images. Personalities. Practice. Programming. Reality. Stars. Tension. Viewers. Violence. Visual media. Verbs. Concentrate. Envy. Focus. Improve. Reduce. Replace. Scare. Shout. Adjectives. Addicted. Oral. Average. Boring. Dissatisfied. Elderly. Emotional. Envious. Exciting. Immoral. Nursing. Reality. Unlimited.
Page 161, Chapter 8, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
How the visual media affect people. Introduction. Benefits of the visual media. How do television and the other visual media affect the lives of individuals and families around the globe? Media can be very helpful to people and their children who carefully choose what they watch. With high-quality programming in various fields of study, science, medicine, nature, history, the arts, and so on, the Internet, TV, and DVDs increase the knowledge of the average and the well-educated person. They can also improve thinking ability. Moreover, television and other visual media benefit elderly people who can't go out often, as well as patients in hospitals and residents of nursing facilities. Additionally, it offers language learners the advantage of real-life audiovisual instruction and oral comprehension practice at any time of day or night. And of course, visual media can provide almost everyone with good entertainment, a pleasant way to relax and spend free time at home. Media replaces other activities. Nevertheless, there are several serious disadvantages to the visual media. First of all, some people watch the tube or are online for more hours in a day than they do anything else. In a large number of homes, TV sets and computers, as many as 5 or more in a single household, are always on. Many people watch TV for many hours a day, or spend hours playing games or surfing on their computers. They download music, movies, and other forms of entertainment. Instead of spending time taking care of their kids, parents often use a video screen as an electronic babysitter. As a result, television and video can easily replace family communication as well as physical activity and other interests. The effects of TV on the mind. Second, too much TV, especially programming of low educational value, can reduce people's ability to concentrate or reason. In fact, studies show that after only a minute or two of visual media, a person's mind relaxes as it does during light sleep. Another possible effect of television and videotapes on the human brain is poor communication. Children who watch a lot of TV may lose their ability to focus on a subject or an educational activity for more than 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe it is because of the visual media that some kids, and adults too, develop attention deficit disorder, ADD, a modern condition in which people are unable to pay attention, listen well, follow instructions, or remember everyday things. The effects of violence in the media. A third negative feature of the media is the amount of violence on the screen, both in real events in the news and in movies, TV programs, and video games. It scares people and gives them terrible nightmares. The fear created by media images and language can last for a long time. On the other hand, frequent viewers of action programming get used to its messages. They might begin to believe there is nothing strange or unusual about violent crime, fights, killing, and other terrible events and behavior. Studies show that certain personality types are likely to have strong emotional reactions or dangerous thoughts after some kinds of entertainment. They may even copy the acts that they see on violent shows, start fires, carry and use weapons, attack people in angry or dangerous ways, or worse. Dissatisfaction with normal living. Because of the visual media, some people may become dissatisfied with the reality of their own lives. To these viewers, everyday life does not seem as exciting as the roles actors play in movies or TV dramas. They believe they aren't having as much fun as the stars of comedy shows. Furthermore, average people with normal lives may envy famous media personalities who seem to get unlimited amounts of money and attention. Also, media watchers might get depressed when they can't take care of situations in real life as well as TV stars seem to. On the screen, they notice actors solve serious problems in hour or half-hour programs, or in 20-second commercials. Boredom with real life. Yet another negative feature of modern television is called trash TV. These daily talk shows bring real people with strange or immoral lives, personalities, or behavior to the screen. Millions of viewers, including children, watch as these instant stars tell their most personal secrets, shout out their angry feelings and opinions, and attack one another. TV watchers seem to like the emotional atmosphere and excitement of this kind of programming, as well as the tension of the real but terrible stories on TV news magazine shows. A newer version of this kind of entertainment is called reality TV. In shows like Survivor, The Amazing Race, American Idol, and The Apprentice, real people compete for attention, fame, and other rewards. What effect does frequent viewing of such programs have on people's lives? It makes television seem more real than reality, and normal living begins to seem boring. Disadvantage of the media: addiction. Finally, the most negative effect of all of these kinds of visual media might be addiction. People often feel a strange and powerful need to watch TV or go online to watch videos or a movie, even when they don't enjoy it or have the free time for entertainment. Addiction to a TV or computer screen is similar to drug or alcohol dependence. Addicts almost never believe they are addicted. Even so, truthful media addicts have to answer yes to many of these questions. Do you immediately turn on the TV set or computer when you arrive home from school or work? Do you watch a lot of programming that requires little focus or thinking ability? Can you concentrate on another topic or activity for only 10 to 15 minutes at a time? Do you enjoy the action and violence of the media more than activity in your own life? Do you feel envious of the lives of well-known TV or screen personalities or the participants in reality TV shows? Do you feel closer to the people on TV than to your own family members and friends? For you, is TV or video the easiest and therefore the best form of relaxation or fun? Would you refuse to give up your TV viewing and internet connection for $1 million? Would you like to compete on a reality TV show more than do anything else?
Page 167, Chapter 8, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Adulthood. Adventure. Bankruptcy. Drama. Investigator. Murderer. Passion. Relationship. Verbs. Capture. Inherit. Investigate. Recover. Sink. Stabs. Transport. Adjectives. Bloody. Computerized. Decent. Desperate. Natural. Powerful. Pregnant. Run down. Scary. Shadowy. Suspenseful. Wealthy.
Page 167, Chapter 8, Part 2, Activity 3, Finding the Main Idea.
Stories from the screen. Story Plot A. Marion, who works in a real estate office, is depressed about her life, especially her unhappy love relationship. Because she is feeling ill, her supervisor lets her leave early. He gives her $40,000 in cash from a house sale to put in the bank on her way home. However, temptation gets the best of the moody young woman. With the cash in an envelope, she packs her bags and drives out of town. On a dark, lonely road, a severe thunderstorm forces her to stop at the run-down Bates Motel. There is a scary old house high on a hill behind the motel, with the form of an old woman in a rocking chair at the window. Norman Bates, the motel owner, is happy to sign in a guest, but his mother shouts at him angrily. After a conversation with Norman, Marion goes to her room. When she is in the shower, the bathroom door opens. In a very famous, very bloody murder scene, the shadowy figure of an old woman pulls aside the shower curtain and stabs the motel guest to death. Horrified, Norman cleans up the room, puts Marion's body in her car, and pushes the car into the swamp. Worried about her and the stolen money, Marion's sister, lover, and boss send out an investigator, who finally arrives at the Bates Motel. Suspicious of Norman's strange behavior, the investigator goes into the scary house, where the dark shape of an old woman at the top of the stairs kills him too, with a long knife. Others come to investigate. After many suspenseful scenes, they discover that Norman's mother is a skeleton. The murderer in the old woman's clothes was Norman Bates himself, who has turned more and more into his mother.
Chapter 9, Social Life, page 188, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Atmosphere. Cafes. Cell phone. Cyberspace. Dormitory. Guy. Match. Mates. Search. Socks. Speed dating. Spouses. Verbs. Arrange. Examine. Exercise. Hang out. Interview. Match. Reply. Volunteer. Adjectives. Aggressive. Arranged. Discouraged. Perfect. Popular. Potential. Speedy. Worried. Adverbs. Enthusiastically. Fortunately.
Page 188, Chapter 9, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
Meeting the Perfect Mate, Part 1. For the past month, I've been taking a university graduate course called Social Structure. It's a very popular class. We've been discussing friendship, social life, dating, marriage, and other relationships through the generations and throughout the world. One of our assignments is to examine the ways that people meet potential spouses, husbands and wives. I've been interviewing students on campus all week as part of my study. I'm amazed at what I've been hearing. First, I talked with my roommate in the dormitory, Usha, an international student from India. "What's one way to meet a possible mate?" I asked her. "Well," she said, "one method in my country is to have an arranged marriage." "A what?" I asked. "I know you can match a tie to a shirt or 2 socks after you do the laundry. Then they're a match. But people?" "Sure," she replied. "There are still arranged marriages these days, and there were a lot more not too long ago. My parents, for example, met each other for the first time on their wedding day. My grandparents chose their children's spouses and arranged the weddings." "Do you mean that the bride and groom weren't in love? That sounds awful. Weren't they worried?" "Maybe a little bit," Usha said, "but they accepted each other. Then, fortunately, they learned to love each other. They've had a good, successful marriage for the past 30 years. This happens in a lot of arranged marriages. You know, even today, some young people marry this way." I shook my head. "Amazing," I said. The next person that I interviewed was Bill, a guy in my business management class. "I meet a lot of women in dance clubs. At least I used to," he said. "The environment was exciting, and I used to go every weekend if possible to dance or talk or just listen to music." "That seems great," I said. I thought so too at first, he said a little sadly. But on the other hand, the music at these places was very loud. Many people drank, so they didn't talk. They shouted and didn't listen much. Both the men and the women got kind of aggressive, and it was so disorganized. So I've been trying speed dating instead of bars and clubs. What on earth is that? I asked, amazed. Well, you go to a nice place with tables and chairs. You get to meet a new person every 6 minutes. Then you list the people you want to see again. Does it work? No, it's much too fast for me. I don't move that quickly, and I'm not a speedy thinker or talker either. You know, you ought to talk to my brother, Freddie. Here, you can get him by speed dialing my cell phone. Bill handed me his cell phone. I speed dialed Freddie. Oh, I do just about everything online, volunteered Freddie very quickly. You meet potential dates and girlfriends and mates online? On your computer? I asked, not really so amazed anymore. Yeah, there are plenty of people to communicate with in cyberspace, Freddie began enthusiastically. With the most up-to-date technology, iPads, smartphones, and video, you can do it anywhere. At home, at work and school, at cafes, in the library. I text with people a lot, too. Slowing down, Freddie paused to think. On the other hand, I'm not such a good writer. It's hard, you know, to use those little computer devices. Anyway, well, who knows what is real there and what isn't? Who knows, like, who might be dangerous? He continued, starting to sound a little discouraged. It seemed he was talking more to himself than to me. I thanked him, and we said goodbye so I could continue my search for the perfect way to find the perfect mate. The internet? Never, said Julie, a student who works part-time in the campus bookstore. I prefer to make new friends at places where people have the same interests. I met my boyfriend at the health club, for example, and it seems that the healthy atmosphere of the gym is continuing into the relationship that I have with him. We work out together, hang out at the pool, go to the health food juice bar, and so on. There are so many active, attractive people there. Maybe you should try it. That sounds interesting, I said. Yes, Julie said. I guess so. But to be honest, there's one problem with meeting someone at the gym. What? I asked. The truth is that I really hate to exercise, so I don't want to go to the gym anymore. What's my boyfriend going to think when he finds this out? To be continued.
Page 194, Chapter 9, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Background. Beach. Characteristics. Computer dating services. Feet. Height. Inches. Motorcycling. Statistics. Supermarkets. Verbs. Fill. Film. Make a mistake. Miss. Tell the truth. Adjective. Optimistic.
Page 195, Chapter 9, Part 2, Activity 2, Reading for Literal Meaning and Inferences.
Meeting the Perfect Mate, Part 2. What is the best way to meet the perfect husband or wife? Computer dating services are the answer, said my friend Sarah, who lives down the hall from me in the dormitory. They provide a great way to meet people. The biggest advantage is that you can have a lot in common with the people you meet through a computer. The computer can match you up with someone of your same intelligence, cultural background or religion, age, personality, values, and so on. If you want, you can meet someone who is famous, exciting, optimistic, healthy, polite, any characteristics that are important to you. You can match your preferences in lifestyle, food, nature, sports, movies, and everything else. And you can ask for a professor, a scientist, a computer specialist, an artist, or have you had many successful dates so far? I asked. To tell the truth, she said, not really. I think I made a big mistake when I filled out the application form. I didn't want to miss a wonderful guy because of an answer that was too specific, so I was careful to write very general answers. What do you mean? Well, there was a question about height. I said anyone between 3 feet 5 inches and 7 feet 5 inches. Then there was a question about recreation. I answered yes to 147 interests, from classic historical architecture to motorcycling. I wrote that I liked tennis, swimming, the beach, the mountains, the desert, health food, junk food, ethnic foods, eating out, cooking, staying home, traveling, the arts, TV comedies, quiz shows, crime dramas, family life, single life, and on and on and on. You know, I think that the computer got confused. It hasn't found a date for me since I sent in the application. And what about online video dating? Asked Sarah's roommate, Sandra. Online video dating? I asked. How is that possible? Well, I hear that you film yourself and talk about yourself. You know, your background and your interests and things like that. Then you post your video online and people can view it, and you can view other people's videos and email the people you want to meet. I answered. More videos in my life. Well, you could use Facebook, Sandra continued. Facebook? Sure. A friend of mine did that. He wanted to get married, so he figured it out by statistics. He decided that out of every 10 women, he liked one, and out of every 10 women he liked, he might fall in love with one. Therefore, to get married, he just needed to meet 100 women. He told his Facebook friends to each introduce him to 2 single women. Then he sent those women a friend request. Did it work? I asked. He's now married to one of his Facebook friends. Last, I interviewed a guy in the cafeteria. His name was Felix. Supermarkets, he told me. You're kidding, I said. Nope, I'm serious. I meet a lot of potential dates over the frozen pizzas in the convenience food section. Also, it's easy to make small talk over the cabbage and broccoli in the produce section. We discuss chemicals and nutrition and food prices. Sometimes this leads to a very romantic date. I slowly shook my head. It is strange. Very strange. That evening, I talked with my roommate, Usha. You know, I said, I think maybe your parents and grandparents had a pretty good idea. An arranged marriage is beginning to seem more and more attractive to me.
Chapter 10, Sports, page 212, Part 1, Activity 3, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Achievement. Altar. Ceremony. Chariot. Competition. Conflict. Coordination. Demonstrations. Organizations. Participants. Peacefulness. Promise. Representatives. Sacrifices. Sanctuary. Spectators. Statue. Trainer. Verbs. Award. Boycott. Cancel. Compete. Contribute. Participate. recreate. Adjectives: celebrated, competitive, extreme, international, original, troubled.
Page 212, Chapter 10, Part 1, Activity 4, Reading an Article.
The Ancient versus the Modern Olympics. In a world troubled by political conflict, the Olympic Games have symbolized peace and unity throughout their history. In the ancient Greek Olympics, youthful athletes honored the gods with demonstrations of their speed and coordination. Based on the highest ideals, the Olympic Games were offered in the spirit of peace, for the love of sport, and honest, fair competition. Although the Olympics have changed over time, you might be surprised to learn that according to historians, there are many similarities between the original Olympic Games and the modern ones. Here are 2 articles to compare the Olympic competitions of past millennia with the widely celebrated Olympic Games of the 21st century. The Olympic Events, Athens, Greece, the 4th century A.D. As the greatest of our national festivals comes to a close again, here are some of its highlights and history. Since 776 BC, our Summer Olympic Games have been held every 4 years at the sanctuary of our ruler Zeus on Mount Olympus. As usual, this year's games began with the promise of fairness by athletes and judges to Zeus. There was a ceremony before the statue and altar of the great god. There were contests for young boys. Participants and spectators met with old friends. There were speeches, poetry readings, tours, feasts, parades, and singing. Next came the competitive sports events. The pentathlon, 5 track and field events including the discus throw, javelin throw, the long jump, running, and wrestling. Boxing, the 4-horse chariot race, horse racing, and an extreme combination of wrestling and boxing. Under a full moon, there were sacrifices to the king of the gods. On the 5th and final day, prizes were awarded. Wreaths made of a special olive tree branch from the sanctuary. Some winners received prizes worth money. There were more feasts for and by the winners. Then the competitors and spectators went home, mostly on foot through the mountains. Women in the Olympic Games. Most of the athletes at this year's events were young men, of course. Even so, unmarried girls competed in foot races at the festival of Hera, Zeus's wife. They were also spectators at the festival of Zeus. The owner of the winning chariot team and the trainer of the winning horse in the races were female too. On the other hand, married women were not allowed in the sanctuary of Zeus. They didn't want to be thrown off a cliff, so no one broke this rule. The politics of the Olympics. In my opinion, the most important achievement of the Olympic Games has been its peacefulness, not only at the Games, but in all of the Greek world. Of course, the actual events fill only 5 short days. Even so, during the 3 months before and after the competitions, there is an agreement to protect travelers, so there is usually no fighting between or among competing cities. Although there have been exceptions, in its long history of over a millennium, the ancient games have never been canceled for political reasons. In general, even during the times of major wars, the games have contributed to the cause of peace for well over 1,000 years. The Olympic Events, Athens, Greece, August 29, 2004. As another wonderful worldwide Olympic festival comes to a close, here are some of its highlights and history. With a few exceptions, our modern Olympic Games have been held every 4 years in a different city around the world. This year, they again took place where they started, in Greece. As usual, this year's Games began with the opening ceremony. Representatives of all athletes and judges made promises of fairness. For the first time in history, the Olympic flame had traveled to all continents before the Games. The opening ceremony ended with fireworks and the lighting of the Olympic cauldron. For spectators and TV watchers, the most popular competitions were aquatics, swimming and diving, athletics, track and field, basketball, boxing, cycling, fencing, gymnastics, the modern pentathlon, soccer, volleyball, weightlifting, and wrestling. There were also 20 other sports including the triathlon, swimming, biking, and running, and equestrian, horse events. Prizes were awarded after each event. The gold medal for the first place winner, silver for second place, and bronze for third. On the 17th and last day, the athletes got together for the closing ceremony. There were musical performances and speeches. The head of the International Olympic Committee closed the 2004 Olympic Games. Women in the Olympic Games. To this day, only about 1/3 of all Olympic competitors are female. Even so, the 2004 Olympics included the most female athletes ever. Women participated in events such as gymnastics, fencing, taekwondo, basketball, beach volleyball, tennis, track and field, cycling, aquatics, soccer, hockey, triathlon, and others. For the first time in history, women competed in the shot put, held at its original site in Olympia. However, there is still concern about the low number of female leaders in national and international competitive sports organizations. The politics of the Olympics. In my opinion, the most important achievement of these Olympic Games was its peacefulness. In their 108-year history, the modern Olympics have been canceled 3 times because of world wars. Some countries have boycotted the Games for political reasons. Furthermore, the International Olympic Committee, IOC, has kept certain nations out of the Games because of their policies. There were terrorist attacks during the 1972 and 1996 Games. In contrast, in spite of the host organizers and participants' worry, there was no violence during the 17 days of the 2004 Olympics. Despite worldwide problems, the representatives of 202 lands got along well. The Games contributed to the cause of peace. As we have seen, the worldwide Olympic Games recreated at the end of the 19th century have been different in many ways from the original Olympics of thousands of years ago. Even so, our modern competitions are more similar to the ancient ones than many people want to believe.
Page 218, Chapter 10, Part 2, Activity 1, Previewing Vocabulary.
Nouns. Bribery. Commercialism. Doping. Fans. Influence. Nationalism. Opposition. Patriotism. Pride. Purpose. Scandal. Sponsors. Sponsorship. Sports. Sportsmanship. Verbs. Clean up their act. Corrupt. Decrease. Disqualify. Expand. Influence. Preserve. Promote. Set new records. Solve. Televise. Adjectives. Band. Dedicated. Dishonest. Intolerable. Non-discriminatory. Performance enhancing. Profitable.
Page 218, Chapter 10, Part 2, Activity 2, Recognizing Point of View.
Issues in competitive sports in the world today. The world should. Sports competition. Dear Editor, the Olympic movement is representative of the principles and practices of all international sports competitions, but it has failed. The original ideals behind the Olympics have been corrupted and damaged. Here are some of the current problems and trends in competitive sports worldwide. Some of the most famous athletes in the world take and will continue to take banned drugs. A recent poll asked them, if you knew you could get away with it, would you use performance-enhancing substances to increase your chance of winning? Almost 95% said yes. The second question was, if you could take performance-enhancing drugs, not get caught, win every contest for 5 years, but then die from the side effects of the substances, would you do it? More than half answered yes. Many observers have the same opinion. The majority of world records in recent decades were drug-assisted. Advertisers, fans, and spectators want athletes to set new records, so opposition to doping is only talk. Athletes and the idea of wholesome international competition have become less important than the interests of TV networks. Even the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, which makes billions from the big companies, has become uncomfortable with the amount of corporate sponsorship at recent Olympic Games. Some players seem to be representing their corporate sponsors as much as their countries. Also, the TV networks make all the decisions about the use of airtime. They televise activities that look good on the screen, like beach volleyball or snowboarding, instead of real sports that attract smaller audiences. Commercialism and the mass media have damaged the original spirit and purpose of international sports competition. Bribery and scandal have always been part of competitive sports. Even in ancient history, Greek city-states fought over control of sports competitions. Powerful officials influenced judges in their decisions. In modern times, bribery has been a part of the selection of host cities for the profitable Olympics. Aren't international sports supposed to promote moral development, individual achievement, cooperative sportsmanship, and multicultural understanding? Instead, the patriotism of sports has often become nationalism, unhealthy group pride. Unfair judges have awarded medals because of national pride rather than true athletic performance. This is not a healthy practice in the search for world peace. In conclusion, the situation of the modern Olympic Games and other sports competitions has become intolerable. Competitive sports are sending the wrong message to athletes and young people around the world. They should therefore be stopped. Regards, Sophia Martin.
CD 3. Interactions 1 Reading by Elaine Kern and Pamela Hartman. Copyright 2013 by the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated. No part of this publication may be reproduced or distributed in any form or by any means, or stored in a database or retrieval system without the prior written consent of the McGraw-Hill Companies, Incorporated, including but not limited to any network or other electronic storage or transmission for broadcast or distance learning.
Story Plot B. After a hurricane sinks their ship off the coast of Africa, a British couple finds their way to land with their baby son. However, the parents are killed by a wild animal. A gorilla, the largest of the human-like primates, finds the baby, brings him home to her mate, and raises the helpless human in the jungle. As a result, he grows to adulthood in the natural ape community. Nevertheless, the young man's peaceful life in the jungle soon changes. To study African wildlife in its natural environment, Professor Porter arrives with his daughter Jane and a hunter named Clayton. When the explorers meet the jungle man, at first they think he is the missing link, a being halfway between an animal and a human being. Therefore, they are surprised to discover that he is as human as they are. When he begins to feel strange, unfamiliar emotions towards Jane, the man that grew up in the jungle becomes very confused. He wants to be with his own kind, but doesn't want to leave the gorilla family that raised him, especially since Clayton sees the apes not as friends, but as animals to hunt and kill. When Jane has to leave with her father, the ape man is very sad and upset. Even so, he saves the humans when they are captured, and Jane stays with him in the jungle. Story Plot C. The Starship Enterprise, a flying vehicle that travels to other galaxies at amazing speeds, stops at a space station for repairs. The four Binars, beings with computerized brains, that are doing maintenance seem worried. Suddenly, they realize the ship is about to explode and order evacuation. Everyone leaves except Picard, the captain, and Riker, the second man in command, who don't hear the alert. After everyone else reaches the starbase, the space station, the problem mysteriously corrects itself, and the ship disappears. As the crew on the starbase try to figure out a way to recover the Enterprise, the captain and his helper discover what has happened. They instantly transport themselves to the bridge, where they find the Binars unconscious, dying, and asking for help. The ship reaches Binaris, the Binars' planet. Because of an exploded star that destroyed the planet's center computer, Binaris is dead too. The Binars needed the Enterprise to store the data from the planet during the shutdown time. Picard and Riker manage to get into the Binaris file and restart the computer. The Binars come back to life. Undamaged, the ship returns to the starbase. Story Plot D. It is the middle of the 19th century, a very romantic time of honor and passion. Mathilde Peñalver y Beristain is an aristocrat, a member of the nobility, the most wealthy, powerful class in society. She falls in love with Adolfo Solis, an army soldier with no fortune. Mathilde trusts that her fair, kind father will let her marry her true love. However, Augusta, Mathilde's mother, objects. With her powerful connections, she sends Adolfo to prison. Lying, she tells her daughter that Adolfo is married with children. Because their family is facing bankruptcy, Augusta wants Manuel Fuentes Guerra, an honorable and handsome young man who has just inherited a vast fortune, to be her son-in-law. Confused and desperate, Mathilde marries Manuel. Soon, Adolfo escapes from jail. After a frantic, intense search, he finds Mathilde. Posing as the new ranch administrator, he recognizes her husband as an honest, fair, and decent man. At that point, Manuel and Mathilde discover Augusta's deceit in their marriage. But in the meantime, Mathilde's feelings for Adolfo are beginning to disappear. She is starting to fall in love with Manuel. Heartbroken, Adolfo accepts reality and leaves the ranch. Mathilde announces she is pregnant. However, to be continued. The world should. Sports competition. Dear Editor, the Olympic movement, representative of the principles and practices of all international sports competitions, has had a positive influence on individual people and societies around the world. Here are some of the current benefits of and trends in competitive sports worldwide. Doctors, laboratories, and sports officials are trying to solve the problem of illegal drug use by competitive athletes. In 1999, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, formed the World Anti-Doping Agency to prevent drug use in international competition. Each country has an agency to test its own athletes. Scientists are developing tests to discover new forms of doping. At the 2008 Summer Olympic Games, at least 6 athletes were disqualified for drug use. Drug testing is becoming common in competitive sports. This will continue to protect young people from the dangerous side effects of doping. The testing also contributes to the ideals of fair play and good sportsmanship. In order to survive, international sports organizations have become more business-like. In the early and mid-20th century, the IOC, as well as national and local organizing committees, used to depend on dedicated staff members, volunteer workers, and local fundraising. Their budgets were small. Commercial interests and money from TV networks have changed all that. Beginning in the mid-1980s, for example, huge payments from corporate sponsors and the media have allowed the Olympic movement to expand. Scholarships, sports education programs, and direct financial aid to developing countries have helped spread the ideals of competitive sports. These ideals include improved health, development of personal character, and good sportsmanship throughout the world. Bribery and other kinds of scandal decrease spectators' interest in, and money from, sports competitions. The attention has forced dishonest officials to quit, and international organizations have been cleaning up their act. Are stronger rules making athletes, coaches, judges, and fans change their attitude about international competitive sports? I hope so. I want to see fair play and cooperation, and I want to see governments create more helpful, non-discriminatory policies. Patriotism may become a healthy emotion based on the pride of achievement and international understanding, a necessary development in the search for world peace. In conclusion, international sports competition, based on the ideals of the ancient and modern Olympic Games, are a positive force. They are sending a healthy message to athletes and young people around the world. We should preserve and promote competitive sports. Sincerely, Ali Badawi.
End of CD3.